I'm Vicki Hogarth, and welcome to Southwest Magazine. The rising cost of living is affecting all of our lives, but where they're feeling that the most is at our local food banks. Here to tell us more about the realities facing the St. Stephen Food Bank is Stan Oag, volunteer. Thank you so much, Stan, for coming in today and for sitting down with me. I'd love to start off by having you tell us a little bit about the St. Stephen Food Bank. I know many of us have known it over the years. It's a volunteer center, but I don't think everyone knows exactly who you're composed of and the work you do. So tell us a little bit about what you do and what the food bank does for the community.
Okay, exactly, and you're exactly right. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about the food bank. I think if you look, and these are national problems, if you look at the world today, what we're all struggling with is there's homelessness, there's drug addiction, there's drug use in the streets, there's all of these problems and shelters, and there's all of these problems that are out there, and they all have very complex solutions and everything. But the food bank is kind of separate from all of that, and in a way, we catch things that fall through some of the other programs. So if somebody is getting enough assistance in other programs, they don't need food, great, then that's what it is. But when it comes to the food bank, people come to the food bank because they're hungry, and not hungry like I'm hungry when Robin is late getting dinner on the table. It's hungry like there's not enough food and people are going without meals so their kids can eat and things like that. So the food bank is really just to address that need, and we try and provide enough food. There's a few days of food a month for people. It's not even a lot. There's no government funding, and this is something a lot of people don't understand either. There's no government funding with the food bank at all, and it is strictly community-based. Now, there is food from Feed NB that does come to the food bank. It's probably about 10 to 15% of the food that we need, so it's not a massive amount of food, but it helps. Every bit helps, and it's super appreciated. And that includes, there's just been a new announcement by the provincial government, which is great. There's an extra $9 million being funneled into keeping people from starving and being hungry. And we will get presumably a little bit more food every month or however often it comes. But that $9 million doesn't go to food banks. So everything that we do and the remaining 85% or 90% of the food that we have to buy, we have to look after it. Either comes from people giving it to us or going to the store and buying it.
Right.
Yeah.
And it must be hard then to plan from month to month when you see the numbers growing of people in need. And we're talking everything from families to seniors. Due to especially the cost of living now, everyone has to be able to admit that it is so much more expensive, just a year ahead than it was last year.
So I
can't imagine how that's affecting the food bank, but I'd love for you to enlighten us on that fact. I think I was there to visit Emily Muir in November, and I think she said it was over 500 families using the food bank at that time.
I'm going to cheat and look at my notes here because I'm going to get the numbers wrong. But in 2025, the last full year, and it's a little bit seasonal, so I don't do too much from 2026 yet. 5,547 visits. I'm sorry, clients. 3,200 visits, but some of those people are getting food for their families and whatever.
500, I think, was a monthly number, maybe families or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that probably tracks. Out of that, and this is the thing that really worries me, is that there are 1,118 children that are being fed by those visits, and there are 416 seniors. And I've got a chart that you can show that will...
I'll take a look here, but we'll also put it on the screen for people at home to see
Perfect.
the breakdown. So walk us through what this chart shows.
So this is not a raw number chart. This is saying what percentage of food bank visitors are in each age group. So the blue is adults. They're the most because that's what you would expect. But then there's children in the orange section and then seniors in the green section. And if you look at that, they are growing and they're becoming a higher percentage of the food bank visitors. And that is concerning. And the trend is continuing. And so we're seeing more and more children, but seniors as well. I mean, the cost of everything has gone up so much. How do seniors, they might be living, everybody's on a fixed income when they retire, and although a lot of people still have to work, you see people working way past 65. And, the cost of gas, the cost of food, the cost of rent, everything is up, and they have to keep buying food. They do, and some of them can't. Some of them just don't have the money.
I think when you think of having a fixed budget, when you see prices jump the way they, and not just food, we're talking housing, gas, we have the war in Iran, another factor right now too, which comes into the cost of food too, if gas is up.
Yep. Yeah, it kills us two ways, because the food gets more expensive because of it. Going to the store to buy food or work. I mean, a lot of people that go to the food bank work, and there's two-income families that are using the food bank, that have to use the food bank.
And when we look at that chart and you see that percentage of seniors growing and children growing, you also see the people you do with the work you do. So you can put faces to
some of them,
to these charts. And what does it tell you about the place we're at right now in the world?
It's heartbreaking. I don't spend a lot of time at the food bank. I pick up food a couple of times a week and deliver it, and it shocks me how much food is needed. I found out I can get 19 of those green bins, grocery store bins, in my truck. I'm waiting. If I get 20 of them, I think I can get them in. So I'm working on that record. But this is food that's more expensive. People are driving to work. It's more expensive. They're everything, and it all piles on. And sometimes food is the last thing to get paid, because they can't afford to lose their power. They can't afford to not pay their rent. They have to go to work, so they have to buy gas for their car. Food's the only thing. And to talk about food as an optional purchase is kind of scary.
And that goes for even the food bank yourself, right? How are you keeping things in stock right now, or are you able to meet the demand?
Well, the short answer is no, we're not able to meet the demand. Up until mid to late last year, this was before I was involved in the food bank, but they were open 3 days a week to give food to people. Now it's only 2. They had to cut back because there wasn't enough food. There wasn't enough, money to keep the food bank operating for 3 days, and part of it's because, well, I mean, there's multi-layers that we get nailed on that. First of all, the food we buy is more expensive. Secondly, we rely on donations. Like I said before, it's not government funding. So if the people in the community that are supporting the food bank and have to acknowledge the people that are giving food and giving money to the food bank, that's so critical and it's so much appreciated. But fewer people have less money to donate, and so it's on all fronts. It's just getting harder and harder and harder. And how Emily Meir runs the food bank, and how she does it, I don't know. It's just, she's a passionate, hardworking person. Just to illustrate how bad the situation is for the food bank, last year, her and Lori, who is another really hardworking, beautiful individual that works at the food bank, and they're the only 2 employees, they worked last year, coming up to Christmas, for 6 weeks unpaid, because the food bank couldn't afford to pay them. And to say they don't get paid generously is an understatement anyway, but the food bank couldn't afford to pay them. And when I say the food bank, this is Emily making the decision. So she made the decision to stop paying herself. She didn't want to stop paying Lori, but she had to, and Lori was right on board. So both super generous people and very unselfish to do that. But that's how bad it is. Yeah. And we need help. We need more community support to get enough to feed people. So, and then there's even a cascading problem. The more the Feed and Be food that we talked about, we get some food from them, that's based on visits. So if you can't afford to stay open and you can't afford to give people food, Feed and Be thinks you need less food. And that just piles on. We need that help.
So part of the reason for doing the show today is for this community awareness of the food bank, of the new challenges you're facing, and just to give people a portrait of who in our community is needing this right now. And honestly, when you bring up seniors and children and that demographic growing, I think that has to touch a nerve for everyone across Charlotte County.
I hope so.
And also your food bank. We say St. Stephen Food Bank, but I do want to encourage people from all over Charlotte County, from the islands to St. Andrews to Eastern Charlotte, to consider a donation even monthly, so you have a better sense of what you have coming in. I think that's, as a person who also works at a nonprofit, I know what it's like to not be able to plan for the future because you never know if that money's going to be there. So it's hard to hire a new writer or what have you. But in this case, it's a basic
food,
need.
yeah.
And you serve people farther than St. Stephen. It's really St. Stephen and area because this goes out very far into the rural areas. So it isn't really just St. Stephen. So I want to just put that call out to people at home right now. Just because you're not in St. Stephen, this food bank is servicing anyone who needs help. And I've seen so many people have to use this food bank that wouldn't necessarily even be St. Stephen residents. So keep that in mind as we talk right now too. This is helping Charlotte County.
Absolutely, absolutely. I like to view it as there's kind of like, maybe 3 or 4 bands of people. So there's people at the lower band that need food. They should come to the food bank. That's what it's for. We want them to come to the food bank and get food. We want to have the resources to give everybody that needs food that help. Then there's people that are surviving but don't have extra to pay. They just don't. And we understand that, and I don't want anybody to feel that I'm saying, it's bad if you can't afford to do that. The last thing I want to see is somebody donate food to the food bank and then have to come and use the food bank because they can't afford to buy food themselves. So just to be clear, this is an if you can. So there's the third band is people that have enough money to donate to the food bank or to volunteer to do food drives, to help whatever. Our information is out there. You can email us. It's all on the Facebook page. And any help is appreciated.
What would be, Stan, what would be the best ways if people are watching right now that they could help? The easiest ways and the best ways for everyone at the food bank, the most beneficial?
Yep. So, you touched on it. Monthly donations, consistent monthly donations make all the difference in the world. One of the challenges that we face is, we have to buy food, and it's kind of hard to go to the store and say, I need, 24 cans of this soup or something. And we do it, but there's some challenges involved in that. And if we have monthly donations and we know how much we're going to have, we can plan ahead a little bit more and maybe order that food earlier. Second would probably be, a mix of donating money when you can. If you come across some extra money and, somebody runs up and hands you $500 and you don't know what else to do with it. Or food, if you do a food drive, you do something else like that. The only thing I'll call out, the odd time we get expired food and we can't use it because we're providing food to the public. There's regulations, there's restrictions. A couple of things at Food Banks Canada, which we follow those guidelines, force on us, and for good reason, is we can't give expired food out, so we can't do that. We also, this is something a lot of people don't know, we can't refuse people. You are not allowed, when somebody comes to the food bank, you're not allowed to judge whether they really need food or not. Now, having said that, I've been there enough and seen people come in, and I don't think anybody wants to be there. And when you look, especially that we're doing, I think 5 to 7 days is the guideline, and we're struggling to follow all the guidelines as well as we can. Nobody's living on that food. I've heard people say, well, you don't want to breed dependency. You don't want people to depend on the food bank and not go out and do stuff. They're not depending on it. If you're starving for 3/4 or more of the month and only getting food for that brief period, you're not going to rely on that. You're just not. And we have an intake process. So people come in, we don't just, it's not like a counter, you just walk up and get a bag of food. There's an intake process. Everybody gets a unique ID number for confidentiality, so we don't have to do that. We can track stats and that without knowing any names. We gather the names because we have to, but we don't, that doesn't get used in any statistics or anything. That's right. All confidential information. But that intake process means that we know who's coming. We know the people that need it. And if you watch, Emily is such a empathetic and compassionate person. I love to watch her, and she knows everybody that comes in there. She knows what their situation is, and she just does everything she can to help. I'm so impressed.
I know when I went to talk with her in the fall, winter, we did talk about the idea of how many first-time users are going to the food bank now, and with the stigma that can surround a food bank.
Yeah.
And like you said, sometimes people associate, oh, you have to go, you're not trying. And that is a stigma that a lot of people associate with food banks, with shelters and things like that. How does it affects someone psychologically to have to go from being able to provide for themselves and maybe on the same budget you had last year, you can't do the same anymore. I mean, that's got to say something.
So fortunately for me, I've never been what I would call hungry. I mean, the dinner's been late, haven't had snacks to eat sometimes. That's, for most of us, that's hungry. That's what we define as. I've never had to go where I was skipping meals, didn't have money to buy food. I came fairly close. I was laid off from a company that downsized many years ago. And fortunately, with what savings we had and being able to sell things off and do what we could, we avoided crashing out, and we kept our house, but we were really tight. We just were right on the line. And I think another couple of months and we probably would have lost it all. And then I would have been at the food bank. I would have had no choice. But so it just shows, I mean, everybody, not everybody, but there's so many people that are just that close to needing it that you don't see. You walk around, people, they're driving their cars, they're doing what they do, and it looks like everything's in hand. Couple of missed paychecks. That's what I think that there's, I forget the percentage, but there's a number that floats around about what percentage of the population is like 2 missed paychecks away from, losing everything. And that's scary.
It's scary, but I mean, I think I would fit in that statistic. When you actually look at your own life, it's amazing how close we all can be. And I think that's why at this point in time, we are seeing that divide between the wealthy and those who need assistance growing larger. So this part of my plea today too is to say, if you are a person who doesn't have to worry about your next paycheck coming in, consider the fact that there are people in your community that are really struggling in a way we've never seen before.
Absolutely. It's like I say, you're at the food bank, you see, it's heartbreaking to see, just sort of touch on the subject of, the intake and whether people need it or whatever. So we can't turn people away, but the abuse of the system, we know the people that are using it. The abuse of the system is like almost zero, if it's anything. And we just absolutely can't and won't punish the people that do need food. The only way to stop that cold would be to stop, make it so that you lost your dignity to get a meal from the food bank. And we're just not going to do that. I don't think it's costing us anything, but that's a compromise we just can't make. If somebody comes and they're hungry and they need food, we will do everything we can to provide that. And that means we need everybody who can afford to help us to do that. If you've got the money, you can spare a bit of money every month, or you can spare a one-time thing. It makes a huge difference. You think about it, if you donate 2 or 3 cans of food, that might be a meal for a family, a whole meal. And you think nothing of it. I was just threw an extra few cans in the cart and didn't even notice it. It makes a huge difference.
Are there drop-off points, like where if someone does want to, maybe they don't necessarily, they're not able to donate financially, but they can do a food drive, or they have things they'd like to donate. Where's the best drop-off point?
So at the food bank itself,
okay.
The food bank is on Union Street, right at the end of Union Street by the fire hall. If you don't know where that is, it's just, you're gonna have to Google map it, because I'm bad at giving directions. But it right at the food bank is the place to donate. It is open basically Monday to Thursday. We're open as a food bank Mondays and Wednesdays, starting at 9. But donations can happen outside of that window. If you can't do it during the day, or you can't, there's some reason why that's not convenient for you, email us. We will arrange a time to be open to accept donations. There's no limit to what we would do if somebody had food. I mean, I'd rather not, spend my Sunday getting a single can of tomato soup, but assuming that.
But you will.
I will if I need to. Absolutely. So yeah.
When it comes to donations and the like, is there something in particular that you always need, that is out of stock often, that we could, if we're in the grocery store and we think of it, just pick up an extra 1 or 2 to think of a donation to bring?
So the answer to that is pretty simple. It's yes, if you can put it in your cart and it's edible, then
okay.
Yes.
So there's no one thing
there's no one thing. And the other thing is the food donations don't cover what we need.
Right.
So because of that, we are buying food, and that gives us a little bit of flexibility. So if we get a whole bunch of one thing or a whole bunch of one category of food, in donations one particular week, that gives us the money that we would have spent on that to spend on other things and get, so we might buy milk if we get tons of soup donated and things like that. But anything, if it's food and it's, whatever. I also say, these are families with kids, a lot of them, as I've talked about. And, kids deserve the odd treat. So don't be afraid to, stick some treats in there. If you're doing a food bank and you're donating to a food bank or you're donating food directly to us, these are people. These are people with real problems that are struggling to face every day. And, I say kids because everybody wants to help that. But the reality is adults too. Mm-hmm. I mean, everybody deserves a bit of a treat now and then. And what's a treat for somebody who's struggling might be pretty small compared to what would be a treat for other people.
Mm-hmm. And I know when we do the Santa's Helpers telethon here for kids in Charlotte County at Christmas time, so I do know the number of kids is very high.
Yeah.
And exactly to your point, isn't it nice sometimes to just have a fruit roll-up or something that might be fun in your lunchbox?
Exactly. And you mentioned lunchboxes. That's key too. If you're looking for food to donate, these kids go to school, a lot of them, mm-hmm. The school age ones. And so somebody has to put something in their lunch or they're going to go to school and not eat.
I do believe, yeah.
Some of them do, like there's a lot.
I know. As we see those breakfast programs roll out, it's great, but there is that other time at home. We are going into summer vacation right now,
yes.
where children won't have the support. So again, there's something that maybe in the winter schools provided. In the school year, you can have a lunch at the school, but it's summer now, so the kids who are suffering are going to suffer more
yes.
if you are empty on the shelves at the
Absolutely.
food bank. So another point to keep in mind is school's out.
Yeah. Yep.
So
more meals for kids, more time with kids at home, mm-hmm. Absolutely. And the other thing is I should call out is it's, food and everyday essentials. So if you're struggling to pay the bills, shampoo costs, toothpaste costs, cleaners cost, and anything that people can get that will save them money and allow them to get through the month without going broke and running out a month before they run out of food, it is going to help. It's going to be a big thing.
So I want to get back to financial donations again, because I think it's really important that we stress this. Through your website, I imagine is the best way?
Yeah, not the website, actually. Our website is in, you've caught me out on this one, but the website is in a little bit of disarray because it's been around. Nobody even knows who has the keys. I'm trying to figure that out so I can take control and update it. It's old, it's outdated. But the website does have the link. It's an email address you can do transfers to. That's the easiest way. And it's on Facebook. If you go to Facebook, it's more up to date. The information is there.
And it's worth a follow of the food bank too on Facebook, because it will keep you up to date when you are doing food drives and
yep.
things of the like
yep.
to get involved. I know that I'm trying to do a Facebook. You can even do a Facebook fundraiser. I found out because I just did one I'm in the process of doing one
yep.
for the food bank, and I think you select the volunteer center on Facebook, St. Stephen Food Bank.
It is volunteer on Facebook. It's Volunteer Center St. Stephen Food Bank, which is officially what it is.
Percentage would probably come off, so better to go directly to the food bank and give money that way.
And it's more direct. It comes right to us. We can start planning for it, things like that. I also make one little call out there. The odd time we'll get a donation, and then somebody will phone Emily and say, "Where's my receipt?" Because I wanted a receipt. The donations don't track who sends them when you do it that way. So if you donate money through a funds transfer to the email address, drop an email to the same address and say your name, address, and the date and what the amount that you donated, so that Emily can. This is assuming you want a receipt, but if you need a receipt, want a tax receipt, you got to let us know who you are. And unfortunately, there's some people that probably don't get that because they don't know to call us.
I do want to tell people at home, I mean, this is our first time meeting, which I think is a really special way to meet, because you contacted the station after becoming a volunteer there. So it was really your first person experience of the food bank that made you reach out and
yes.
say, hey, let's tell more people about it and the help we need. And I think that's worth stressing, because you are feet on the ground there, and you're able to tell people at home what the realities are. And to see how much you care, Stan, I think will hopefully inspire people to see how real the need is and how much empathy we all should have for people in the struggle right now.
I hope so. That's absolutely true. And it is, I mean, it's a very challenging thing to go and spend time and do, but it is absolutely well worth it. If we can get more donations from people, it's going to help everybody. And thank you to everybody who is already donating. There's a lot of people that do. There's a lot of food that comes in. I was there not too long ago, and a minivan full of food came up. We didn't know it was coming. There was bags and bags and bags of food. It was great. We had to buy hardly any food that week. That's how much food they brought. It was, I think it was, I'm not going to put a number out there because I'll be wrong, but it was a lot of food. It was a van full.
I appreciate how you, as a Charlotte County resident, are helping in the ways you're stepping up, and I believe you will inspire a lot of people to join the mission and stand up for the community. So thank you so much for coming in today, and please come back anytime. I think this is a conversation we should continue to have and to make sure our community stays informed where need really is.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for the chance to come out and say this. It is close to my heart. It's very important to me, and I will do anything I can to make this a better place.
Well, then I will see you back here very soon.
You will.
Thanks, Stan.
Okay, thank you.
My guest today has been Stan Oag from the St. Stephen Food Bank and Volunteer Center. I'm Vicki Hogarth. Thank you for watching Southwest Magazine.
Southwest Magazine is a news and public affairs production of CHCO Television.